LOMELLINA has been a classic border area and land of ancient throughways from the Bronze Age through to Roman times, then as the land of Longobardi, Lombards. In 1164, Emperor Frederick I placed the region under the rule of the city of Pavia. A few of the territory's defense fortifications can be dated back to the 10th and 11th centuries. A good number of the monumental buildings were constructed between the second half of the 15th and the first half of the 16th centuries. The major architectural changes, remodeling them from their original defensive role into elegant Renaissance residences, took place in the Visconti Sforza era. The voyage of exploration of the castles of the area begins at Palestro, where the ancient Via Francigena enters Lomellina's territory. The ancient Visconti Tower can be traced back to 999 AD as a significant military monument and remains the only example of the garrison built between the 14th and 15th centuries by the Visconti. In Palestro, the 20th century ossuary, built in memory of the May 1859 battle during the Second War of Independence, is a must-see. In Robbio, we can wonder at the castle, dating from the 13th century and built on the site of a small, pre-existent fortress. The medieval structure was modified in successive stylistic restorations that took place at the end of the 18th and the beginning of the 19th centuries. The most striking feature is the tower. It is privately owned. Vigevano, the principal town of Lomellina, is worth a visit. Its communal history dates back to 1198, and from 1277 until 1535, the Torrianis, the Viscontis, and the Sforzas were lords of the city. At Castelnovo, the castle rises in the hamlet of Villanova, a typical 14th century rural fortification of the Visconti Sforza era. It is built in a square with a central courtyard. It is here that the Sforzas experimented with the cultivation of rice for the first time in Lomellina. The exterior can be visited, and inside the courtyard can be seen with a guided tour. The first document concerning Rosasco and its castle is the concession of the Holy Roman Emperor Otto I to the Bishop of Pavia in 977 AD. The castle, built towards the end of the 9th century, is one of Lomellina's oldest fortified encampments. Today, only the well-preserved two towers can be seen, whereas a third is incorporated into the parish church complex. The Isimbardi Castle at the Agonia Castle was built in the medieval era with fortification design and then reconstructed between the 14th and 15th centuries. It is in the form of a square with a tower at one corner and a gate tower at the southeast side. It is run by the Veracoghi Foundation and hosts exhibitions and cultural events in its halls. Its garden is also used for several events and shows. It can be visited with a guided tour. The Olevano Castle of Lomellina is a rural building with a main tower. A second tower, not as tall, rises from the back of the building. The present castle was erected in approximately 1420 on the earlier fortification of Antonio Olevano. It was converted into a villa in 1758. It is privately owned. The Gallerati Scotti Castle at Cozzo was rebuilt by the Milanese in 1214 and restructured in the 15th century when it came into the possession of the Gallerati family. At the time, it was endowed with two drawbridges, an additional tower, and ghibelline crenellations, which still crown the walls. It is in private ownership but can be visited with a guided tour. The Valle Lomellina Castle dates from the 14th century and has been subjected to later reconstructions and is a unique example of this iconic style of building. In the center, two stylistic additions have been introduced in the form of two circular towers. Near to the castle, in the little church dedicated to St. Mary, one can admire the well-preserved murals of the 1400s. It is in private ownership, but can be visited with a guided tour. At Sa Tirana Lomellina, there is a Visconti castle dating from the last quarter of the 14th century, built on the site of an earlier 11th century fort. It formed part of the border fortifications of the Duchy of Milan under the Viscontis and later the Sforzas. Noteworthy is the imposing circular tower built in 1400, a design of the architect Ridolfo Fioravanti. It is the home of the Satirana Arte Foundation. The castle hosts art collections and elegant high-end Italian fashion in its courtyard, in the gardens, on the ground floor, and on the Piano Nobile. These collections have been exhibited in major museums around the world. It is in private ownership, but can be visited with a guided tour.